no other distractions, just straight into it.
Yeah, and you don't really get that in life these days, hey?
Nah, it's just distractions, loud noises, beeping, horns.
Well, how often do you actually sit down with someone just with them?
I reckon without a phone, probably never. We're rolling. Are we in?
Yeah,
Let's
in.
go.
We're in. We're going.
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, I think without a phone, I doubt you ever do it. I think what I incorporated late last year, and I'm still trying to do it, I haven't done it as much since I moved to the Gold Coast, but the thing that I kept doing, which was a bit of a game changer, was a no phone time. I'd leave my phone at home and I'd walk down to the beach in the morning and, in the afternoon. And because you've got, especially when you're working on social media, you've got non-stop, like it's just non-stop on your phone. Your screen time sometimes gets to double digits and it's crazy, right? And so when I would leave my phone at home, walk down to the beach with a mate, go for a swim, soak it all in, watch the sunset, that was such a game changer just for my emotional well-being and happiness. You just get so drained. So yeah, I like having the headphones on. It's good, man.
I think when it's so loud all the time, you don't hear yourself. Like you don't hear what you know you need to do or what you should do. And you hear all these other noises, and they could be good noises, but they're still going to steer you in a direction that might not be like what you actually know you need to do. Yeah.
And it's so interesting as well because I had Cooper Chapman. He said a quote. He said, a mutual friend of ours, he's like, listen, don't just wait to talk. And that's fascinating because too often we're not listening enough. We're too busy waiting for waiting for our time to speak.
Yeah.
So you don't even take in what they say. It's like, I don't know. I just feel like that's such a horrible place to be in because the best way for you to learn is by listening. When you're only speaking about the things that you know because you're just waiting to talk, you're not really.
That's what podcasting taught me. Podcasting taught me that, to listen better. Like it made me a much better listener. It was something like a byproduct that I didn't realize would come, which is kind of obvious looking back now. If you talk to people all the time, you're going to get better at listening to what they've got to say. But it was that thing to say something without the intent to say something again. It's like say something or ask something so then the person will actually speak about their experience themselves. And then instead of comparing to your life straight away, you go, okay, let's dive deeper into that. And seeing someone understand themselves better through your questions is, man, it's such a fulfilling thing to be able to do. To see someone go, I've never thought about it like that. And you see the wheels start ticking over and they start thinking, and then just that little bit of wisdom or information you gave them that you didn't even think might have been anything can then alter and affect their life in such a positive way. And I think that's a big part of like podcasting and being able to share little snippets of things you've gone through to help other people on like a broad scale. I think it's great. Yeah, you kind of, when you get asked a question, you're figuring out the answer as you're saying it. So if you ask the right questions, you're learning more about yourself, more answers. That's why it's cool to be a guest on other podcasts as well, because like when you're just on the side of, in terms of like interviewing someone, you're trying to narrate a conversation in a way, try and unpack certain things about the person to make that conversation special. But then when you go on the other side of it, it's the other way around. So then all of these beliefs and things that you've been learning over the time as a teacher and as a host gets challenged and gets tested. A little bit of an introduction. Dean, welcome to the Pocket Podcast. It's great to have you on. We're actually in your studio here, The Nest in Burleigh Heads. Thanks for hosting us here. It's such a great space. I remember when I first came in here, I was pumped. I got inspired. I want some leather couches like this, and I want some stuff like this. But before the show, we did a breath work, and it was weird. I rocked up here. I was messaging you. I was saying, yeah, I'm running a little bit late. It's been a bit of a busy day. And you're like, yeah, no rush, man. And then we got here and we did a breath work, and holy, what was that? 10 minutes, Wim Hof. And it was like crazy. It made us like, I don't know, what's the best way to explain it? Because when you finished, you're like, I just want to talk about death. And it was such a fascinating thing because I was like, you want to talk about death. Yeah. And you related it to the feeling and the state when you go into that breath work and relating it to being out of this world. Can you elaborate a bit more on that? So I guess with the breathwork thing, man, it's been something I've done for a while now and couldn't like literally recommend it to everyone I meet because it's like, I think that's getting back to yourself. But I think if you're ever going to go into something that you put importance into, or find important, you should obviously settle yourself with breath. And like you said, you were running late, you're a bit stressed, and it's also putting yourself in your position. Like I obviously do podcasts, I know what that's like. You're trying to get somewhere, you're a bit stressed, and that can come across in the show. So I was like, take your time, it's easy, man, I've got all afternoon. And then when you got here, I was like, we should do a breath work, and that will just settle you back into yourself, and it just calms you and slows you down. But when we're doing it, the thing I look at with the whole talking about death thing is, like, I believe when you do die, I don't think consciousness dies. I think your body can die. I think when you go into a state like that, when you obviously are kind of cutting off oxygen and going to this kind of different place, it's almost like a euphoric feeling that you can go to, and it just settles me. And I've done some, not that one, but I've done some where I almost, how would it say? I think when you die, it's going to be probably the most euphoric feeling you'll ever feel. And I don't think you're going to be dead in the fact of like, it's going to be black. I think you'll, I don't know, transcend into everything. And in those moments, if you look at something as being probably the most euphoric feeling that you could ever have, why are we so scared of it? I think the fear of death is something that we all live with and we all focus on. And I think once you take that away and you're no longer scared of death, life becomes just that little bit nicer, because it's like the unknown. But if you can kind of not touch it, but in those scenarios where I feel like you are shutting off your body and you are going into your mind, I think those things can calm you and go, oh, actually, if this is it, it's actually not a bad thing. And I think in those moments you kind of go back to yourself and go, okay, if this is kind of it and this is what it's going to be like, it's not going to be that bad. And kind of just embracing the fact that we all are going to go there at some point and not being scared of that point.
Yeah, I haven't got to that point yet in terms of my relation to death. But do you think a big part of that is your background in extreme sports and mountain biking? Obviously a professional mountain bike athlete, and you know, my brother used to do that, jump all the big jumps and do all the downhill and stuff. And you know, you have to have this you have to have less of a fear of death to do that stuff, because it's quite reckless. Like, you're doing quite gnarly stuff, and you kind of, to even think that I want to jump over a 50-foot jump and try to a backflip on it, like, to even think about that, it kind of, you kind of have to not care about death as much. Would you agree?
In some way, yeah. I think it's all like risk management though. Like, it's something I've done for so long, and like anyone that's done something for so long, it's not, you never get into something at the start and go, this is so scary. You go, this is so fun. And you're a kid and you're excited and you get a little bit better, and obviously you have your accidents, but then you get up, you brush your knees off, you keep going. But it wasn't until it was right around actually COVID. It was about COVID 2020 when everything kind of shut down. And to be honest, I actually went and lived out in my van in a national park and just like turned off my phone and shut off to everything. And that's probably the time that I got really like more accepting of death. I don't know why, but I was just in my thoughts by myself, isolated for a bit. And I just really put thought into, why be so terrified of something that we have no idea what it is? And it's like, you have the choice to be scared of something or not to be scared of something. So it's like, why not choose not to be? And why not enjoy the time until that comes? Like, I think it's been playing on my mind a little bit more, because it seemed to come up recently with a few people that I knew, or friends of friends that had passed away. And it's something that's just always here, but we never put focus into. And it's not until someone dies that you go, oh, and you kind of look at your own mortality and go, what do I want to do and what do I need to do? And I think it's a good and a bad thing to look at. It's bad as obviously you don't want people to pass away, and it's really sad, but it shows you that at any moment our time can be up. And I think in those moments it goes, well, okay, I want to live life more. And I think coming back to the mountain biking thing, like obviously there are times you have really bad accidents, and recently I had a really bad accident where I stretched my spinal cord. And I remember, obviously I didn't die, but I remember laying on the ground, and when I was laying on the ground, I just thought about all this life I hadn't lived and all these things, and I was still content with my life until that point. But still, I didn't know that was going to come that day. And like, you could have died if I hit it the wrong way and broke my neck the wrong way, and you don't know. And it's like, would you rather go up until that point being scared of that thing, or if it happens, it happens, and up until that point life was amazing and you're having the best time in the world? So I think it's just being conscious that it can change at any moment, and not being scared of that fact though. Like you almost should energize you to know it could end at any moment. So appreciate every moment you do have.
Ignorance is bliss, I guess.
Yeah, in a
Quite
way.
literally, like you know it can happen, but being ignorant to the fact that it can happen, there's peace in that, I guess. But you mentioned there when you were lying on the ground after the accident, you started thinking about all the life that you hadn't lived yet. So that's a fear in the moment where you thought maybe my life, this could be it, and I haven't lived out all the things that I want. Is that a feeling that you had?
I think I just, in part, like honestly, if I died tomorrow, I'm pretty content with my life that I've lived. I've done a lot, I've seen a lot, I've felt a lot, and I would be very just content if that was it. But in saying that, I know there's a lot more out there to do. And in the moment laying there when I didn't think I'd walk again or use my arms, that there was a lot that snuck into my mind where it's like, oh, I wish I did that, or I wish I did this. And I think we're all going to have that feeling in that moment. And even coming out of it, it's kind of given me this perspective to be like, okay, things can change at any moment. Grab life with two hands and shake it for all it's worth. And I kind of had that mindset before the accident, but it definitely got enhanced after the accident because, again, like we say, we don't know. We live in such a volatile world right now. Like there's wars going on and there's AI coming and there's just all these different things. It's just like we're just like a powder keg that's ready to go off, and everyone kind of goes through life with this like. And I think, again, you should go through life being happy, but you should also go through life going, this could all change. I think something like COVID is a perfect example of that. It can all be thrown on its head.
Do you think this is a message to say be more reckless or just don't worry about death? Because I feel like I don't worry about death, but I also don't really put myself in risky positions that I could die at a lot higher percentage than a normal person. So like, but if we're having this conversation, is it a conversation of like, if you're worrying about dying, don't, because it's stripping away your peace in the moment, your presence? Or is it more about like, take more risks, man, life's short, you live more?
I think listen to yourself. Really listen to yourself and what you want to do and what you know you need to do. And then also know if you can do it now, you might not be able to do it tomorrow. So do it now, because those things can pass. And I always say that one day is code for never. Don't say one day. Put a date on it.
Yeah, one day, or even just I'll do it tomorrow. Like tomorrow just keeps it just keeps coming. You wake up tomorrow and then there's another tomorrow. Yeah, you said in one of your posts on Instagram after the accident, it was a video, and you said, "Don't forget to smile even when you really don't want to." And you were going through a pretty tough time. You were saying in the video, you were just like, "I'm not well, like I'm not good," and you said, "Don't forget to smile even when you really don't want to." Like, what does that mean to you?
I think in those moments when you're going through that amount of pain, physically, emotionally, mentally, if you can still smile and show people that they can, I think that gives a lot of people hope. I think it gives people hope that no matter how bad they think they may have it, they can get better. And I think trying to be somewhat of like a beacon in that sense, like pain and adversity is an opportunity to show people what you can go through. So every time something hard ever happens to you, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, okay, that's an opportunity. Because now if you come back and go further, you've got that in your resume that like, I came from there and I got to here. And that gives a lot of people hope, and giving people hope can change their life. To see someone do something, if you've been dealt a hand of cards that is so shit and so bad, and you can still smile through that and come out the other side and become a bigger, better person, people see that and that is motivation for them to be like, well, I don't have it that bad. Look what he went through and he's still smiling. And I think if you can be that light to shine in other people's lives and help them see a bit clearer or a bit further, like, man, that to me is like, why not do that? And like, why? It's like, it sucks, yes. And you're in pain. And like, I went through some pretty dark times in those moments where, especially as away, like I had no feeling in my feet. I had no feeling in my hands. Obviously couldn't really move my neck. I had no temperature in my body. I was freezing every night. Like it was not good. I remember the team I was on for 5 years, like I just retired. So I just was saying goodbye to them. So I'm like, people that I don't know when I'll see them again. Like my whole life was shifted, in those moments. I remember there was three things. There was I retired, which I was happy I retired because it was time. But you do something for 17 years, man, no matter if you've fallen out of love with it, that's still going to have an impact on how you feel. Your identity's so tied into that. So I lost that. Spinal cord injury. Didn't know if I'd ever be somewhat normal again. Like I could obviously walk very slowly, I was like, am I ever going to get back to somewhat of who I was? So that's obviously playing on my head. And then the girl I was seeing at the time, our relationship was falling apart. So you've got all three of those kind of wearing at you, and there were some dark times. I think one of those alone would need some mental strength to have all three hit you at once was it was definitely a bit overwhelming at times. But I kind of have this thing now where whenever things get really hard, I always know that in those times that has an equal positive attached to it. And that might take a week, 6 months, a year, 14 years, 20 years, whatever. But that negative, that low will bounce back and swing back like a pendulum and hit the other side. So it's like in those dark, low moments, I'm like, okay, this sucks, but it's going to get better. And it's going to get a lot better, and it's going to have the equal positive attached to this. And in those, I always say it's like wearing a life jacket, because it's like you're never going to go too deep. It's like you're always going to be floating around the top, and you're never going to go under, because I think when you go under, I think that comes in the whole like suicide and going down that path. I think when people get real low, if they don't have that life jacket on, which I guess is the hope for a better life or things to get better, like that's why people commit suicide, man. They lose hope. They lose hope that the situation they're in could ever get better. And I guess having that mindset that it will bounce back and knowing that it will bounce back, even when it really feels like it wouldn't, is something that people need to put their life vest on and just be like, okay, it's shit, but I will get better and someone will find me and help me. So
the pendulum swings so powerful. I agree with that so much, because with every negative there's a positive. With every positive there's a negative, and it's important to notice that contrast as well. And it's also just the polarity between the good and bad is what makes the good special. Because if you have no bad times, then the good is just normal. And it's really important to notice this. Whenever you are going through a hard time, just know that the thing that you are going through is literally the thing that is going to make the good times great. Like the rain makes the sun enjoyable. If every day was sunny, do you think people in the desert like a sunny day? They don't, because they have nothing to compare it to. It's just normal. And so you need to have that polarity between good and bad to make those good times special. But then also what you said just before about keeping a smile on your face and knowing that when you make it out the other side of the tunnel, you're going to be able to inspire the other people to do that too. It's really important that it's the power in you overcoming some sort of adversity is the people that are going through that problem that you are going through. Because guess what? You're not alone. There's thousands of people all around the world that are going through the same problems, and they would love to know how you made it out the other side. And so by you making it out the other side, not only are you building character and making a stronger video game character of yourself, but you're also inspiring thousands if you put your message out there to do the exact same.
You become useful. You become really useful. It's like, would you ever want to talk to someone about climbing Mount Everest if they've never done it? It's like, no, they have no experience. Like, pain's adhesive, man. Pain brings people together if you use it the right way. And I think people that have been through extreme levels of pain, like you always see the happiest people in the world, and I see a lot of really happy, excited people. I'm like, fuck, what happened to you? Like, what hurt you? What did that? And it's probably not the best way to look at it, but most people that have been to the lowest of lows can touch the highest of highs. And I guess in some way I'm living proof of that as someone. Like, I was pretty depressed as a kid, grew up country town, like very isolated. When I was about, I think I was 11, tried to commit suicide when I was just lost, man, just lonely and lost. Had no direction, no goal. I wasn't good at school. I got picked on. I had barely any friends, and I was just in like a really bad place. And like I said before, like you lose hope. And you don't see yourself on the other end of that tunnel. You just see it as this wall that you can never get over. And I went through that, and my parents found out about it, ended up taking me out of school I was in, put me in a new school. And around the same time I found mountain biking. And mountain biking became like my savior, because suddenly I had friends, suddenly I had goals, suddenly I was good at something. And I talked about the other day how athletes are kind of broken people, and I can vouch for that because when I became that athlete, I was a very broken person. I didn't see myself as having much value. I didn't see myself as, I guess, being good enough. And if you don't think you're good enough, you'll probably become a pretty good athlete because you'll throw everything at it to try and get better. And you're never going to probably catch that perfection. And I think it's a kind of a double-edged sword when broken athletes, broken people become athletes because they need something to put all their energy and focus into. And that's what I did with my racing. And that's why I think I excelled so much, because I needed something to pull me out of where I was. And it did. And then over time I became, I guess, my true self. And through the riding and through the connection I made with people, and just coming back to that pendulum thing, it was funny because about 14 years after the whole suicide thing, when I was at the lowest point of my life, I had this kind of weird out of body experience at one of my, I had a 24th birthday party, and I got this perspective shift from myself, and I, no joke, felt new levels of happiness that I'd never felt before. And in that moment, I found this great urge to share that I'd come from not wanting to be alive to the happiest I've ever been. And it was actually pretty funny. I got in my van like a week later, drove up to Burleigh. There's a podcast up here called Gypsy Tales, my friend Jace McAlpine runs. And I went on that and talked about my story and the suicide and how I'd gone from that low. And I was like a ball of energy, man. I was so excited.
Where did that come from, the energy?
I think I would always look at the suicide as something that was very, like, I was ashamed of it. I didn't tell anyone. No one knew. My family knew, and that was it. And I don't know why, but when I hit those new levels of happiness and felt like this, just, I can't even put into words, man. I just felt amazing. And I was like, I started telling people, and it felt like a weight was lifted. It was like you let go of this thing that I was holding on to. And then I came up and going from telling no one to then I went on a podcast and told like 60,000 people. And the reaction from that was overwhelming. Like the reaction of people reaching out and saying how I helped them in some way, how they were in a dark place, and how me just being me and doing what I'd done and showing that you could go from somewhere to there. Like you can be at this low point in your life. And I was just saying, you can be there, man, and it will flip. It will get better. And I'm living proof of that. And I think when people see it and then see someone that is so in love with life and so happy, and they're like, oh man, like he is that person. But I came from a point where I didn't even want to be here anymore. And showing people that, it's giving them like the permission that they can do it themselves. And that became like my fuel to want to help other people. And the reaction from that, it kind of was the best and worst thing that probably happened to me with my mountain biking, because after that I found fulfillment in helping others instead of, I guess the racing was very individual and like you're doing it for yourself. As much as like you can inspire others to ride bikes, it's kind of surface level of doing a sport. And then I found the power in helping other people through podcasting and words and speaking. And that was like where I got my happiness and my fulfillment from. So then the riding kind of slowly deteriorated because it just didn't have the same grab and the same passion evolved with it. And yeah, it slowly changed over. And now, like I said, we're in my podcast studio in my creative space. And I think it made me realize that we change and that's okay. And I think we get so attached to a version of ourselves that we've built in our own head, and then other people reinforce that we don't change and we do things that aren't aligned with who we are now. Like our values change, our lifestyles change, our wants change, our loves change. And it's accepting that and being okay with it and not being so caught up in, I've done this, so I'm always going to do this. It's like,
I think we change, but our perspective broadens. Because of course it changes, because our sight is like this, and then slowly it goes like this and like this and like this and like this and like this. And then there's way more things to look at. Of course we're going to change. Our perspective grows, so we get exposed to new things. We go through relationships, have breakups, learn what we want, what we don't want. So, okay, now we're going to look for a different partner.
we have more reference points.
Yeah, well, you've just experienced more things in more areas of life. So those areas of life become more fine-tuned. And then you kind of just sharpen the sword in all those areas. And that's why it's funny, whenever you go through a certain challenge, whether it's a health challenge, a relationship challenge, a business challenge, these are arenas that are the most important arenas of life. Like, they are the things that actually matter. And when you go through a hard time in, say, relationships, for example, you can look at that and grow from it, or you can look at that and be a victim of that thing that happened. There's a great quote from Haluk Somozian. He says, heroes and villains both come from the same backstory, pain. He's like, the villain says, the world hurt me, I'm going to hurt it back. And the hero says, the world hurt me, I'm not going to let it hurt anyone else. Heroes use pain, villains are used by it. And that's a great reference for everything in your life, because you can use it as fuel to better yourself and make sure that everyone else doesn't get hurt by the thing that you've been hurt by, or you can blame it on everyone else and just be a victim and be stuck in the same spot. And I think that's a really powerful lesson, because where I've found the most amount of growth happen in my life is when I look within. And even if it's not my fault, blame it on myself, because through that I seek answers. And then when I seek the answers, the way I get the answers is by asking the right questions. Then the more questions I'm asking myself, the more I'm learning about myself, the more I'm sharpening that sword. So then hopefully when I get myself in a position again where I'm faced with a challenge, I can overcome it and I can become better and be better off the back of it.
Just be more self-aware in those situations. Because I like when you say that with the fuel. I always tell people, if like you got fuel, man, you can put in your car and drive to the shops, or you can burn your house down. How do you want to use it?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, just in a different use.
Yeah. I think you like the biggest thing is taking ownership. I'm so all in for taking ownership, because even if it's not your fault, even if it's a hater, there is benefit in looking within. Like if you've made someone feel a certain way, like take that as a lesson. Like you maybe don't have to change your character, but the reality is you've made them feel that way. So think about what you've done to make them feel that way.
Well, it's being more empathetic towards other people. And like I said to you, in that case where you were obviously running a bit late, I was like, bro, it's all good. And then get here and like breathe. And instead of someone going, oh man, like you said this time, what the hell? Like, and you start rushing the person, it's like you're just creating a worse outcome for both of you. And it's like you have the control in that moment to not be reactive to those things. But we all are so reactive from everything that it's like, oh, I'm going to be a bit late. Oh man, you said you were going to be this time. And then you get stressed and you're like, oh, and then we try and rush through it. And the whole experience becomes shit just because you had one simple little thing you could have done different. I've got a tool I do now. And sometimes when something will go wrong in my day, I will take my thoughts back to when I woke up. I'll play through my entire day and go through that, how I should have dealt with it, and then play through the rest of my day, how it would have gone. And it's just normally simple things, whether you said something to your girlfriend or your mum or your dad, or you didn't do something, and it's seeing the results of what you should have done in your head, like visualizing how that would have gone. And then once you see it, go like, why didn't I just do that? That would have made life so much easier if I didn't have that snarky remark, or I didn't not go do that thing. And then you look at your life in this way of like, okay, well, next time now I've seen myself do it, I will do it. And it's just those little tools and triggers you can kind of try and use to actually live the life you know you should live.
I think the most powerful tools we can use are the ones that are on yourself, the self-reflection tools. Like I got a powerful one whenever I'm feeling uninspired, the like called it the self-assessment tool, where you're assessing your life, like where it is today. And you kind of like ask yourself a series of 3 questions where you go like, who do I want to be? Who do I not want to be? And who am I now? And you go, what do I want to have? What do I not want to have? And what do I have now? And then like when you actually answer those questions, honestly, you realize that where you want to be is here, where you don't want to be is here, and you're here. And then you take that next step and you go, okay, what are the actions that I'm doing every single day? Are they getting me closer to here? Or are they getting me closer to here? And all of a sudden you do a whole assessment of your life and cut out all the things that are getting you closer to the place you don't want to be, and you enhance the things that you're doing that are going to get you closer to the place that you want to be. And it's just this clarity that you get from it. And it's the same with when you do that, where you reflect on your day and you go, okay, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. What could have I done differently today that would have set the rest of my day up? And how would that pan out? What would that look like? And I guess through doing that, it's like you're being calm in the chaos. Like I love that term. It's a very stoic term, like just being ability to be calm in all the chaos that's going around in the world is powerful. And then magic comes from that. And before the show, I got you to write a quote for me something that you love. And out of all the quotes you wrote, innovation and creativity, more times than not, are birthed within the midst of chaos. And you hit the nail on the head there. I think it can be a double-ended sword though, because sometimes when it's chaotic, like sometimes my creativity can be stripped away, but equally at the same time, when it's chaos and your back is against the wall, creativity has to stem because you have no other options. Talk to me a bit about that quote and what that means to you.
So I came up with it with my dad because we were chatting about when we've had good ideas or when things have worked out for us. And he's an inventor. He's invented sawmills. He built a helicopter from scratch. And yeah, he's lived quite a life. And I remember him saying that most of his great ideas came at 3 a.m. in the morning when he couldn't sleep, and that he had 2 kids that he had to feed and all these other things going on in his life. It's like his back was well and truly up against the wall. And we talked about that, and we talked about how in most of those times that's when he's come up with his ideas. And I look at most of the times when I've excelled and pushed myself, it was when I wasn't going to get the ride, or when it was kind of no one's calling me. It's like in those points when you're like, oh shit, I need to show up. And Tony Robbins has this great quote. He says, if you want to take the island, you've got to burn the boats. And I always had a few boats. And if you want to do something, really do it and be the best at it in the world. There can't really be a plan B. Like, you got to be all in, because if you're not, someone is all in, and they're more obsessed with it than you, and they're more driven than you, and they'll beat you. Yeah, 100%. And it's just, I guess, pulling that mindset I had as an athlete, but you can bring that into everyday life. But I think you can always use that in relationships, in business, in sport. It's like, if you're not all in, there's going to be other noise come in, there's going to be other people, there's going to be other things that are going to come and affect that thing that you want. So I think knowing what you want first is massive. So actually, like, coming back to the breath work, doing stuff like that to hear your inner voice, hear your intuition, know what you want to do, and then just literally put everything into it. And if you do put everything into it and it might not be working out because of, you say, you're in the chaos, it's like, maybe look a bit harder and you might find something. But me and my dad were chatting about that, and I think it really kind of hit home for both of us. Like, I know in the end of 2017, I had a really bad year racing, and the team that I was riding for pretty much said to me at the end of the year, hey, we don't know if you're going to be on the team next year. And that's a pretty big wake-up call when that's your dream and what you've always thought you were going to do, and they call you up and say, yeah, we don't know if you're on the team. I had 2 weeks. 2 weeks when no one called me. No one in the industry called me. I was like, is this done? Is it over? And I remember those 2 weeks so clearly, because that was my chaos. And then I finally got a phone call and they said, hey, we're going to put you back on the team for next year. And I was like, it was this relief. And I'm like, all right, that got too close. I need to put everything I have into this. And I remember actually there was a hill near my house, and I'd go out there every day for months building this track, because I need a track that I can train on close by. That's something I didn't have last year. I need to build a track. So I was out there by myself with a pick and a shovel for hours and hours every day building this track, and then built it start to finish, and started training on it, started going to the gym, got fitter, got stronger. And then we rock up to the first race of the year, and I went from like pretty average results to I qualified second. And it was like this just like relief of like, oh my God, man, I could do it again. And they were playing around with the start order, and they had this weird thing go on where, because the guy that qualified first wasn't in the top 20, they put him down earlier. So I went from being second to going down last. And I just had this really profound moment when I was at the top of the hill. Like, literally everyone I've ever looked up to in the industry and around the world with racing had their eyes on me about to do my run. I was the last guy down the hill. And I thought about that 2 weeks where no one was calling me, no one cared, no one gave a shit. And then going from that to you're the last guy down the hill and the whole world's watching you. I'm like, man, if you want to change something, you got to put in that work and have that drive to do it. But in the chaos, you need to find that. Like, what's in here? How much do I want this? What's your why?
Does going down last in the hill meaning you're ranked the best, or what's that mean?
At the time, yeah. So I qualified second, so it goes slowest to fastest. But because the guy actually qualified first, they put him down earlier because they were playing around with the start order. But
so you're not going all at once. Are you like, is everyone watching your run? Is that how it works?
So they go in normally 30-second intervals for like the first 30, and then after that it goes a minute, and then the last 10 is 3 minutes. So it's like downhill skiing and all that kind of stuff. So someone goes, they watch their full run, they get to the bottom, the next guy goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So just being at the top there,
And how'd you go?
I ended up getting third.
Wow.
So that was beyond, like, I was, obviously you want to win, you always want to win, but to go from where I was barely even in the top 20, if not top 30.
That would put you on the map a bit more again.
Yeah.
Reminded everyone of what you're capable of.
Remind myself.
Remind yourself. Yeah. Like, it's one of those things that when you're saying all this about that no one there, it's just you. Like, through those couple of weeks, you realize how important it is to look after yourself. Because you go, when your head hits the pillow, no matter what happens, you're always going to have yourself by your side. Always. Try not to lose that person's respect because it is so hectic when you're in these lonely chapters of life and you're trying to achieve greatness, but you have no one on the same page as you that you can just call that understands and can relate to. It's just you. You need to look within. You need to look after yourself. But then you equally just need to go, mate, like, it's character building. I got to a stage where I had to laugh everything off because I'd gone through so much shit. I'd been slammed on my face so many times that you kind of, like, it gets to a point where it's laughable. You're like, fuck, it's Sunday night. I don't know how rent's being paid tomorrow, but it's fucking funny. Let me tell you that much. You get to a point where everything becomes laughable. And I think that what that means is your pain tolerance is increasing. You're being able to withstand a lot more challenge a lot easier. And through that is a type of strength that is so powerful. It's so powerful. Like, you've gone through the shit and you've gone through the shit alone. Like, if that doesn't, like, you can go through a lot more shit after you've done that. And that's like a powerful thing to go through.
A guy once told me, and it's one of my favorite quotes, but he said, there's two things you need to know about stress management. It says, don't sweat the small stuff. And it's all small stuff. And I think once you realize that, and you go, I need to pay rent tomorrow and all that, it's like, it's not that big a deal. And I think when I draw back to that time when I was laying on the ground in America and, like, your health gets really affected and you go, oh, that's what's important. And you realize that all these little things we worried about all in day-to-day life aren't that important. I think once you go through life and you go, it is what it is and what will happen is what will happen. And obviously don't just steer the ship into the rocks, but if it doesn't go the way you perceive it should go, it's not a bad thing. It's just the way it's going. And I think it's going through life with the whole idea of nothing bad really happens. It's just all these different lessons and paths you go down to be the person that you should be. Like, I always ask people, I'm like, are you happy with yourself right now? Are you happy where you're at in life? And most of the time people go, yeah. I'm like, would you go back and change all the bad things that ever happened to you? And they go, no. So are they really bad things, or are they just lessons that have happened to you to get to the person you actually enjoy being now? And you look at it like that and you go, oh yeah, true. Like, I wouldn't change any of the bad shit that happened to me. None of it, because it's like, I'm so happy and content with who I am now. And I wouldn't be the person I am now if I had this easy, cruisy. And again, my life wasn't super hard. I just had some challenging things that came up and that pushed me to be the person I am now. But I don't think you should change any of that, because I think you miss out on, again, the opportunity of being the person you should be. Like, I don't know if you ever watched The Butterfly Effect, but I've watched that movie for so long. So the basis of it is he can read his diary, and when he reads his diary, he goes back into that point in his life. And he keeps trying to go back and make his life better in the moment. And he realizes every time he goes back and fixes what he thinks is a bad situation, his life gets worse in the future. And I thought about this for so long, and that was the whole thing. It's like, you don't know if something's good or bad till it plays out, and it plays out when you die. And that comes back to that something in a moment might seem bad. In 10 years, it's the best thing that ever happened to you. And it's like, if you find happiness in moments, like in present moments, then like, were those bad things? It's like, just say, for example, you break your leg, worst day of my life. You go to hospital, you meet this nurse, she ends up being your wife. Was that broken leg a bad or a good thing? It's like how you view it. And that can happen in everyday life. Like one of the guys that work out of the studio, Lockie, who's become one of my best mates, I met him from a guy spilling a drink on me. And I went and apologized to him because I knew the guy that spilled the drink. Was spilling the drink a good or a bad thing? If you look at how far it's come now in our friendship, and he's working out of here and helping me with video stuff. And it's like, it's just not being so reactive to things that happen to you because you don't know if it's good or bad till it plays out, and just let it play out without reacting to it in the moment.
Just knowing it's all going to shape the journey.
Yeah,
It's all meant to be. It ties in really well to my favorite quote from Steve Jobs, and he says, "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards." And like, that sums up exactly what you just said, is you do not know where you're going to be in the next 12 months. But then when you get there, you can look back and know exactly how you got there. And what's so powerful about that is when you do get raised with these problems, when you get raised with these life-changing, these road-changing paths, and you have to go on a different angle of your life, realize that that's going to shape where you're going to be. And you're going to get there and look back and you're going to know exactly how you got there. And also that's really powerful when you're in a decision-making process and you don't know what to do. Just go with what feels right in the moment. Fucking do it and disregard everything else. Because like once you've made the decision, the other ones are off the cards, off the table. You can't make those anymore. So focus on the things you can control and focus on the thing that you've picked. And when you get to that phase in your life, you can look back and if it was a good thing, if it was a bad thing, like it's all going to shape that journey, like for good or for bad. It's going to shape you and the person that you're going to become.
I was going to ask you, because I think we can relate to this, but how has heartbreak with love helped shape you to who you are?
I went through probably like my first real heartbreak last year. And it's funny because I'm so young. I had a relationship in high school that I thought was the one. And then like we broke up and it was the hardest thing ever. But through that first one, it was a really interesting journey because we broke up. I just moved out of home straight after school. I'd moved out of home. She broke up with me. And then this was 2020 and COVID hit and the whole world was shutting down. And I was living in the Gold Coast at the time. And basically they announced that the borders were closing. It was like a Thursday and they said they were closing on Monday. Like they announced that they're closing the borders. And my best friend Sam was living in Sydney at the time and I just got fired from my job, let down because COVID, everything was going to shut down. Footy, I was playing AFL at a high level at the Suns here and it got postponed 4 months. So there was no footy for 4 months. And I just got broken up with by my girlfriend. They all hit me all at once. And then Sam, with a bottle of wine deep in his studio apartment by himself in Sydney one night, just goes, "Mate, why don't you just move to Sydney?" And this was Thursday night. They just announced the borders were closing. And I was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, fuck. He's like, "Sleep on it. Let me know. I've got to let the landlord know if I'm renewing the lease. So you got to let me know by the morning." And I slept on it. Woke up in the morning, went down to the beach. And I remember I was sitting on the beach after the water and I just thought, I was like, fuck. I was properly like kind of heartbroken. I was just a bit lost. I was like, what's going to happen in this chapter of life?
Midst of chaos, man.
Yeah. And then I was like, fuck it. What do I have to lose? And so that day, it was Friday, I announced that I was going. It was so last minute. Literally wasn't even a concept in my mind 24 hours before. And I filled up my Subaru over the weekend. I had an old Forester and I packed up this car. And I remember I was heading off and I was getting abused by my dad, my sister. Like they were trying to scam me, like the cars, like, what are you going to do? Like you don't have a job. I didn't have a job. I had no idea how I was going to make money. We didn't know what was happening in the world. My dad was saying, "Oh, the car's going to break down." They were trying to get me not to go to Sydney. And this whole time I was just like, "I appreciate you. Appreciate your input, but I'm going anyway." And I'm tying this into heartbreak in a second. I'm getting there. And I get down to Sydney. I'm sharing a studio apartment with my best friend Sam, sharing a mattress on the floor of it because the bed got moldy and we just had to make it work. I had no jobs, nothing. And it was so lonely where it was just me and Sam. Couldn't meet anyone. And in those lonely times after a breakup, like all you want to do is be with that person and you can't. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise that I was in Sydney because even if I wanted to, I couldn't see her, which was great. But I just remember going through this phase where I was like, fuck, I just need to focus on me. And you kind of use this thing as fuel. And I kept like avoiding hanging out with girls. Not that I could even do it much because we couldn't leave the house. But I remember I kept progressing in my life, kept growing as a person, but she wouldn't go away out of my mind. I kept being like, oh, I want to make all this money and look after her mum. Like I knew that I was struggling with money. I was like, I want to really support Liv's mum and stuff. And I was attached I really liked her family. Mm. But then I kept trying to like reach out and stuff. And through that, I realized that it's like, no, we've broken up for a reason. And that reason means we can't be together. And so I went on this kind of like self journey where I just focused and honed in on myself. And I obsessed over a few years, just bettering me, focusing on business, learning about self-improvement. And I thought I knew it all. And then I had this relationship and we broke up last year. And it was one of those ones, and I'd made this video about like the 3 different types of love in your life. And you have that first love, and that typically happens at a young age. And then you kind of break up and you probably ended over something silly. And, you know, when you look back at that love, you may not think that that was actually true love. But the truth is it is love. It was love for what you knew love to be. And then the second love came. And this one is the hard one because this love teaches you lessons. It makes you stronger. Like through the second love, which is literally what happened, is you go through great pain, you go through drama, you go through damage. But this is the one where you grow. It teaches you what you love about love and what you don't love about love. It teaches you the difference between good and bad people. But then what I also found it does is it also makes you closed, careful, cautious, considerate. But like you just get this level of clarity. And I remember when we broke up, it was so hard for me, but I just went and looked within. And as we said earlier in this podcast, I sought all of these answers. I just blamed everything on me. And I was like, I'm going on a self-growth journey and I'm like properly going to become like 10 more levels above what I was because of this breakup. And that's when I started posting content. That's when I started, like, I remember I said to my ex-girlfriend when we broke up, I was like, I'm going all in. And she didn't really understand what that meant. And I didn't really understand what that meant either. But I said, I'm going all in because I just quit my job. I was trying to run a new software startup. Back was quite literally against the wall. I quit my job with negative $1,000. I had a credit card that was $1,000 in debt, no money. And I quit my job that was paying me 120 grand a year. And I just was like, I got to make something work. And I went to Thailand for 8 days solo trip because I was supposed to go to Bali with her. And I was like, fuck that. So I booked a day before I went to Thailand solo for 8 days and like didn't party or anything. I just properly just like was like, it's about to get busy when I got back. And I remember I learned so much from that relationship. Like I literally grew so much that because I took the ownership, that I look at her now with like the utmost gratitude, appreciation for that breakup. That breakup was the most life-changing thing I probably could have happened to me. Last year when I look at all the things that happened, the most life-changing thing was that woman and that breakup.
Become a teacher almost.
Yeah, well, I'd put it down to seeking answers, and through those answers you learn about yourself. And that's why I really love like the quality in which you live your life comes down to the quality of the questions that you're asking yourself. Because if you can ask yourself the right questions or really powerful questions, you're going to get the right answers. And I remember I just went on this hectic journey and I started posting all my lessons. And that's when I was posting every single day. Like I didn't know what was going to happen. But like I just had to make it work. And that chaos of like back was quite literally against the wall. No job, expenses were $1,000 a week and I had a credit card. That's it. There's things in a vault, videos in a vault that I haven't released yet that I want to wait till like I'm properly like really, really well off to read because I haven't even looked at them. of me just an emotional wreck, showing bank accounts, like literally like proper lows.
You become useful because, again, like you give people hope that they can be in those places and then come back and be better than they can ever imagine.
Yeah.
And I think it's powerful to be aware of that in the moment and know that it will get better.
Yeah, and I think, and there was a very long-winded answer. You asked me the impact that heartbreak makes on you, and like it just comes back to one of those things about like you're comparing the hard times to, like you're comparing the good times to the bad, and those bad are the character building moments. They're the ones that make you more special. And I remember like just every single month I was doing my self-assessment tool and I was reflecting, and I was just every single month I was becoming a way better person. And I just kept looking at it, and it was day and night difference. And I'm like, the confidence in myself and my ability and all of the traits, the characteristics in a man that are attractive, I'm slowly gaining and gaining and gaining by going on this journey. And I get back to a point now and I look at this and I go, I am more confident than ever that I can now attract someone that can quite literally be the mother to my children with a really high standard. And also when you look at it, full transparency, is my ex-girlfriend like set this insane standard in my life for the girls that I want in my life. Makes dating really challenging.
You're gonna get what you want.
Yeah, but it taught me this standard. Like there's so many lessons from that relationship, and there's so many characteristics in her, quite frankly, that I want in my mother of my children. So when you look at it like that, you go, how can you be heartbroken? Because there's so much gratitude and appreciation for everything I got. That chapter in my life that I've now turned the page is a very meaningful chapter. It helped shape me. It was character building, and I'm so grateful for it. So to answer your question, that I think heartbreak plays such a big role. And I think if using it as fuel, you can become probably as top 0.1% male, and you can become a really powerful person. But what about your thoughts? And I know you've got some stuff to talk about this too. I'm really intrigued on how you think heartbreak plays a role.
I'm going to start off. I definitely got some heartbreak in my life, which I've definitely seen the benefits of how it's got me to where I am now. But you said something the other day that I saw a video and I really could relate to it. But it was the whole right person, wrong time. And I've really been dwelling on that or thinking about that because I kind of like the idea of right person, wrong perspective. And I think in that I'm getting taught a lot at the moment about unconditional love and how rare unconditional love actually is. And you think about it, you go, I will love you if. And you could say it's fair, I love you if you love me back. Or I love you if I get to see you 3 times a week. Or I love you if you'll give me kisses. Or like the list can go on. And is that love, or is that love if I get something in return? And you look at unconditional love from a parent or something, and like they just love you no matter what. They love you no matter what you do, what you say. Most would anyway. And it's that idea of actually just loving someone for who they are and not trying to put all these restraints and conditions along with that love. And I'd been seeing a girl recently, and it comes back to the whole, you could say, right person, wrong time thing, because she's going to go to London. And she actually, at the start, she was quite reserved and didn't want to like commit because she's like, well, I don't want to hurt you. I'm going to go away. And I fully understand that. But it's the thing, if you enjoy someone and you like them, it's like, wouldn't you just try and experience that for as long as you can? And I guess this ties back, I thought about the other day where it's like the whole death thing. It's like, it's going to happen. Wouldn't you rather enjoy the time until you got to that point? And I think with love, it's enjoying it to that point and then still loving them from afar and not having to hold on to the idea, I will love you if I get to see you every day. It's like you can love people you might not see all the time. And it's actually feeling that love and enjoying it for what it is. Like I heard this thing the other day, and it talks about like you got a balloon and you're holding onto it so tight, and slowly the balloon deflates and then it's just hanging by your side. And how good is it sometimes when you let go of a balloon and you watch it take off, and how exciting that is to see where it's going and where it's gonna go, what it's gonna see. And I think you can look at places and people like that as well. Like sometimes it's okay to let go and love them from afar as they leave. And I think once you accept that, it's so freeing, man. And it's like the whole idea, you look at your ex now and you go, I still love you as a person. I love everything you taught me. And I know there's a point when you probably first broke up where there was probably some hard feelings and a bit of like emotion attached, because that's like, we're emotional beings and we're always going to be emotional. But I think it's being self-aware and self-regulating in those moments to go, I still love you, and it doesn't matter if you don't want to be with me. Maybe I need to work on things on myself. But I always say, it's like with love, man, always keep your door open. Like I shut my door for a long time. Went through a really bad relationship. My first love really messed me up. Just had a lot of issues, especially with traveling over to Europe at a young age and them getting with other people, and just a lot of all that feeling in your stomach when it sinks. I got really used to feeling that. And then there was also a connection she had with my mum, and they became really good friends because we were together at a young age. So you can imagine that the person you've loved first, like your mum, is then best friends with the girl you first fell in love with, and now they're best friends. And one of them is treating you awful, but they're still friends. So it's like your heart definitely gets tested in those moments. But looking back at those moments now, it's made me who I am, and I wouldn't change it. And I've accepted it, and I'm friends with both of them now, and it's all good. But I think it's that loving, like it's just, yeah, man, loving them even if they are going to be something that you probably wouldn't, you might look at in the moment as being, I'm not going to say wrong, but it's just not holding on to this expectation of they need to be someone or they need to show up as a certain person. And I think once you let go of all that and just say someone comes into your life and the door's open, they come in, and if they want to leave, they leave. And it's not trying to like hold on to their leg as they walk out. It goes, okay, you can leave, the door still there if you want to come back. And I think it's going through life accepting that the right people go through your door if you keep living your life how you should. It's that freeing feeling of not trying to chase and hold on to something, and just knowing that it's like being so attractive in yourself in any aspect, whether it be your health, your how you look, what you do, everything. Like just be so attractive in yourself that people want to come into that. I always talk about, like, if you make a nice garden, man, people will come and sit in it. And if they want to get up and leave, let them get up and leave. If your garden's that nice, if you're that nice, if everything's that attractive, people will just stay, and the right people will stay. So it's like you control that. You can't control and force people into staying in something they don't want to. You just have to make it that nice that people want to come.
For sure. I agree with that final bit. I'm not sure if I agree with a couple of the other things before, to be honest, which is great. So let's talk about it. Yeah. I don't know about that concept of just enjoying it while it's there, and if they have to go, they have to go. Like that concept of, all right, I'm moving to London in 4 months. Let's just enjoy this fleeting 4 months together and get really close and then leave. Because in my eyes, you're digging a hole deeper that you know you need to get out of. And that's hard. You don't play around with love. Love isn't just something that you just like play a game of volleyball with and then the game's over. It works.
I don't think you're playing with it though.
But I think what happens is when the more time you spend with someone, the deeper this bond and connection you form with, and you start to really like this person, love this person. And when you take that aspect away from your life, they go move to London. You've now had this whole connection that you've built with someone. You've invested all this time, all of this energy. When you're not with them, you're thinking about them still. And then they go away and you still have to think about them and you're not with them.
You can love them from afar, man.
Do you think that it consumes you too much though?
I don't think it consumes you. I think it's being okay with that. Like I think jealousy, envy come into it a lot. And I dealt with a lot of that in my life. And especially with, I guess, being cheated on and things like that happening. And it's definitely a hard emotion to love someone that is with someone else, but it might sound a bit rogue, but I think it's just being happy for the person. If that's what they think they need to do.
I think that's for sure. I 100% agree with that. I think being being happy for the person is something you've got to do, because the reality is if they've ended it or they've gone with someone else, they've deemed that person to be better than you for them. Doesn't mean that you're bad. It just means that you're not as good for them. And so accepting that and still loving them and appreciating them is important. I just don't know if you feel like if there is something in between you two that means you can't be together, yet you still proceed to go dig this hole deeper in terms of your emotions, your feeling towards each other.
But this comes back to you only can connect the dots after looking back.
Yeah, but if it's something set in stone, like they're moving or something, and you're not prepared to move with them, and like that's confirmed, and there's this long distance divide where time zones are different, lives are different, everything's different. Like, do you not think that would just consume you and restrict you from doing a lot of things in your life?
Not really.
Because I don't think FaceTime suffices.
I don't know if I'd FaceTime though. I think it's that whole thing. It's just let them do them. And I think if it's meant to be, they'll come back into my life.
So not a long distance, but it's more about just like having this time that's amazing together. Then they go out, do their own thing. And if they come back into your life, then amazing, by all means. But I'm not relying on it. My door's open, but it's also open for all the other girls too.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that too. I do like that.
I think it's having that mindset. And just like you said, you're going to become attached. And I just look at like I've been properly in love with probably 3 women in my life. And I've lived for a long time. Like I'm 29 in a month and a bit. So I look at that thing where you're talking about you don't want to go into that depths of love with that person because they're going to leave. And it comes back to we're all going to die, man. Like it's going to end. Everything is fleeting. Everything is going. So I'd rather feel those emotions of love and not close off to it, even if it might. And it's being okay with it lasting maybe a couple months and just feel it, experience it, enjoy it, be in it. Like
I think I have a conclusion. I think I have a great way to sum this up. Is are they your second half, or are they a bonus to you already being full? Because if you're completely full within you and everything else is a bonus, you can't be broken because you're full. They're not a part of you.
But they're also, like, it comes back to, you said your last girlfriend taught you so much. Like this girl now, she's teaching me so much about, again, unconditional love. Like, because I looked at it and she's like, I can't see you all the time. I'm quite busy. And it's like, so because that's how you are, I'm not going to love you as much because I can't see you as much as I want to see you. And like, that's not wrong or right. That's just how it is. And it's being okay with that and accepting. And obviously there's give and take on both sides. But I think when you have this expectation, it's like, I will only love you and care for you if I can see you 3 times a week. And you're like, what the fuck is that?
Surely that's not a thing. Is that what she's saying?
No, that's not what she's saying. But like, people have conditionals and everything. Like, I'll only, like, I'm sure there's plenty of relationships out there where people go, they'll get angry if you go out with the boys or go play golf. And it's these conditions that come with love. And obviously, again, there's give and take. You can't just be so one-sided. But I think when you generally do just love someone, you want the best for them. And you might not be the best for them. And it's accepting that and being okay with it when they are with someone else. Like, that's such a freeing feeling. And we do normally feel it, but it takes us such a long time. Like, I've got exes that have partners and kids now, and I'm so happy for them. But directly after the time we broke up, and if they were with someone, I'd feel like jealousy, envy, anger. And it's like, how do you carry that mindset of having that feeling of you just want the best for them as you're also going through somewhat of heartbreak?
Yeah. I think unconditional love is a blessing and a curse. And the reason for that is because when you conditionally love someone, you're going to love them no matter what. And sometimes there can be something negative about that relationship with that person, family, friends, romantic relationships, and something that could be negative something could be building in that relationship that's negative, and it's actually affecting you more than you're getting from that relationship. But because you unconditionally love them, you still surround yourself with them, and that rubs off. I'll give you an example. If you're with your family, and say you're really trying to succeed in business and you're really trying to practice this abundance mindset and really operate at a high level. But then you go to the dinner table because you live at home, and every single night when you're eating dinner with your family, they're complaining about fuel prices. They're talking about how the coffee's going up from $4 to $4.50, and they're complaining about all these scarce-minded things, and you hear it every single day, day in, day out. But because you unconditionally love them, you feel the need to speak with them every single day, or you want to talk to them because that's the person that you unconditionally love. That can play a negative role in your life. Would you agree? Or are you defining unconditional love in a different way?
I agree with that, but you also need to know yourself enough when to take yourself out of those situations. Like, I know how much to show up with my mum, my dad, my brother. So, like, for example, me and my brother would fight all the time when we lived together, and we probably still would if we lived together. I know how much time is enough around these people that I love to know when to remove yourself. Like, this is, people always think that they're stuck. And I was like, man, you can always leave. You can always walk out. And I know it sounds bad, but it's like, if shit's going wrong and you don't agree, sometimes it's not worth fighting. You can just walk away. And I'm not saying that's how you fix all your problems, but so many people, they try and change people's perspectives and what they think and what they think is best for you. And it's like, sometimes, man, it doesn't matter. It's like, I'm just going to leave the situation and not have to try and convince you that what I'm doing is the right thing. Because like you said, when you were leaving and your parents like, the car's not going to make it and all that, you were self-aware enough to know, no, I need to go. And I need to do that instead of staying and then resenting your parents for making you stay there. And it all comes from a place of love. And that's the thing. We wrap, what would you say? Like a lot of the time, or most of the time, if not all the time, it comes from a good place. And we hurt our loved ones or our wives or our girlfriends, and it all comes from a good place. But how we actually put it forward is not normally in the best way. It's like, I feel like most of the time, you say and do things for the right reasons, but it has the wrong results. And that's a hard thing because, like you said, it's like your family just needed to let you go and do what you needed to do. And I guess that's the unconditional love thing. It's like, if you were leaving, they're like, no, this is what you want to do. This is what you should do. And I think it's giving people the space to feel like they can be themselves is really powerful. And I guess that's tying into unconditional love of someone coming to you and saying, I did this and I did that. And you holding the space for them to not judge them, not get angry at them, not put them down, and be like, that's okay. I still love you. It's all good. And if they've done something that you might not see yourself with them now because of what they've done, you don't have to hate them. You can still love them. You just, like, again, you remove yourself. But how much more powerful is it to go, I still love you. You're not a bad person. You did the wrong thing. I'm just going to leave now. Like, that's way more freeing for the both of you than just throwing anger at that person for making a mistake. Like, we all make mistakes, man. We all fuck up. Yeah.
I love this conversation. I've learned a lot from this because I've got a new insight on it. Like, I'm reframing the way that I think about unconditional love. It's not about the amount of time you spend with them and feeling obliged. It's more about being able to step away from them and go, I still love you. And unconditionally, I'm always going to love you. But I just need some time to myself, selfishly, to then look after everyone as well. It's like a love from afar. It's not about the amount. It's not about the feeling obliged or wanting to hang out with them just because you unconditionally love them. I feel, because I had this weird feeling of feeling the need to hang out with people because that's what we're used to doing. It's like if you got really close friends and you say you meet new friends or something and you start hanging out with them more, you still feel like you need to hang out with the others even though you don't want to, maybe. And that my thought was, okay, it's because it's like unconditional love. Maybe I'm hanging on to them too much. But it's not really that. Talk to me about friends. I'm really intrigued. How have you gone growing up? Has your friend groups changed? Have they stayed the same? Hopped around a lot? Talk to me about that.
I was going to say, I just want to add one more thing before the love thing and things. Like, I feel like we're both learning a lot of lessons with it now. I was just going to say,
we can keep talking about love.
We'll go back to the friend thing. I just got one more thing I wanted to get off my chest, but it was funny. I was going for a walk on the beach like literally a couple of days ago with this girl I've been seeing, and we're walking along and we're just laughing and joking. And she looks at me and she goes, "Can we still be friends once this is all changed?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, when we're like not sleeping together anymore and we're not as connected and it's going to change, can we still be friends?" And to say that doesn't hit somewhere where it probably, where it hurts is heavy. But then in the moment, it's just not being reactive to it and thinking that you're just at a stage in your life where you believe that this won't go further. And it comes back to that kind of selfish thing of me. If I could react and go, what do you mean? And like, why not? And I just kind of sat with it. I was like, yeah, I can still be your friend. And I think that thing that it's like, just because you don't want the same thing as I want doesn't mean I should show up different or should feel different towards you because of that. And like, that was a lesson I literally learned a couple of days ago. It's like, why do my needs trump your needs or your wants? It's like, you want to be my friend, I want more. No one's right or wrong, but it's just going to determine how much time I guess we show up and spend with each other. And that's the hard thing that you have to learn. But I think accepting that and not being reactive to that, because like I shut off to love for about 6 years after my first real serious relationship, and people would come in and girlfriends and stuff, and it was great. We got along. I was into it, but I could never open myself up to love because I wasn't ready. And I see that in her now. So who am I to judge how someone is showing up now when I showed up the same way for plenty of people? So it's like that, again, self-awareness that, okay, well, you're just in this stage of your life and I'm in that stage. And it's not right or wrong. It's just different, and that's okay. And I can still love you from afar if that's what's going to be.
Do you believe you can still be friends with your ex?
100%.
Do you think you can still be friends with your ex in a capacity where you're hanging out regularly?
Probably not regularly, because I think if it's regularly, then it takes away from the experience of meeting someone new. And I think you can get stuck holding on to something that, again, no hard feelings towards them, but I think life's short and you want to experience new people to then build something more. So I think if you're holding on to it, and I don't know, you might get back together, who knows? Again, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I think it's hard to have a lot of really strong, intimate connections. I think it's hard to maintain those just because we don't have that much time in the day, to be honest, and that much energy to give to.
So even if you, like, I'm not saying still be friends and sleeping with them, like literally just friends, but hanging out a lot, like a friend. Like,
it's so dependent on.
I haven't figured it out yet, and I don't think you can, but I'm still learning this. If you can be close friends with them, not sleeping with them, not getting any intimate with them in the slightest, but just hanging out with them regularly like you're best friends, but you're not dating, don't think you can do it. And the thing is, because I think you've stepped over the line already, and what you know the relationship to be is one thing, and when you try and be friends and you're hanging out one-on-one, all you want to do is step over the line again. And I think it's hard. I'm figuring it out. I don't know if you can.
I think even if you might be able to master it, which I haven't either, if you start seeing someone new, are they going to be able to handle that?
No way.
And that's the thing. It's that whole where you're putting your energy. And even if you have no intention to sleep with them again, it's still like you're giving them a lot of your time and energy. And I think
so. If we tie into that, sorry for cutting you off, but if we tie that into the conversation we were just having about seeing someone and giving them all your time and energy when you know you're not dating them, at least now, isn't that going against what we just spoke about before? How you were saying, like, why don't you just enjoy it, and then when they have to go each other's ways, we do that and then we deal with it then?
I think for that, you're still, I guess, holding on to a hope in your idea that it might become
something.
With an ex, it's probably...
There's a reason you broke up.
There's a reason, yeah. And like you realise we're still friends and we really cherish each other as friends in the friendship, but there's probably not a future in a romantic sense. So I think that's a different way of looking at both of those situations.
And I think what's so hard about it is quite literally when you're dating someone, they're not only your partner, they're your best friend. Like that's the reality of it. Like you guys get along a lot more. It's not just sex. That's in fact rather not a big part of it. Like you get along so much in so many areas of your life, and you're like the people that you do everything together with. So then when you lose that, you don't just lose your partner. Like you lose your best friend.
Friend breakups are probably worse than relationships sometimes, but I know what you're saying. And a lot of people, they kind of go about it backwards, and sex becomes one of the first things that happens, and that becomes somewhat of a glue or like a bit of a haze that you go into where you're just like, well, sex is great, and then the rest is not really there. But I know when I was younger, when you'd meet up with people, you'd probably hook up culture I felt like I was more into that, and I'd look at kind of, this is like younger me, probably around like 19, 20 and all that. It's like if you didn't sleep with a girl and you went on a few dates, it was like a failure. And now it's like I want to make a friend out of this person, and then if there's more to it after that, sweet. If there's not, sweet. It's like you've met a new person, you get along, that should be a win in itself. It's this whole thing, it's like if you get this far, then it's a win, or it looks cool, or you feel like your ego gets stroked a little bit. But like just having connections with new people, especially people you like cherish and get along with, like that's a win in itself. And it's not going so deep into the like we need to hook up or like.
And it'll make the sex more special anyway.
Way more special, man.
Because like
I feel comfortable with someone.
It's just like I do this thing all the time if I'm on a date, and like I'm at their house or whatever, or we've been hanging out all night, I'll go home. Literally just go, no, I'm going to go home. I got early morning, go home. And like
the chase, man.
Yeah, and it's like obviously it's a little bit of a game too, but equally it's like, no, we're not having sex tonight. Like that's not what's happening. And setting that there and going, no, like because it's not the thing that matters right now. It's early days in this relationship.
If I really like someone, I'll intentionally not try and sleep with them for a while because I don't want the sex to cloud what they think I want out of this. Like I remember saying to a girl that she ended up becoming my girlfriend, and we were in bed. We'd gone a few dates and we're in bed and we're making out, and it was going that direction. And I told her, I was like, I don't want to have sex with you right now because I don't want you to think that's all I want out of this. And at that point I knew I wanted more. And I think if you sleep with someone quite quickly, it can cloud their judgment whether do they want me, do they want my body, do they want more. And I think if you kind of go, no, that's not it, it kind of makes them view themselves and I guess the value they put on themselves as well. And I know that that's been a powerful thing. Pretty much anyone I've dated, we haven't hooked up. Like it's been, we've got to know each other. And then like you say, the sex becomes better because you're so much more comfortable with that person. Like I've never done it. I couldn't imagine like going to like a brothel, like getting a hooker because like they don't want to do it. I can't imagine sleeping with someone that doesn't want me to sleep with them. Like that just seems like the most.
Sounds horrible.
It's so off-putting, man. And I think, yeah, you want the person to equally want it as much as you. And when you can feel that and see that, like that's when you have great sex.
What about if you spend all this time, have you ever been in a position where you've spent all this time building something, holding off the sex, and then somehow there's just no sexual chemistry there and it doesn't work?
Yeah, somewhat. Sometimes I think people, like there is chemistry, but sometimes people are nervous as well. Like that, it takes a while, I guess. Like sometimes the nerves can come into it if it is this big build up and it's almost like, ugh! And then it can be a bit, clunky in a way. But most of the time, I feel like just because of, again, the comfortability between the two of you, that's when it's really good. I think when it's comes more out of a feeling of just like lust and straight away, it's like it's good. It's not like it's bad, but it's not as good as it really could be.
Are you spiritual?
Somewhat. My mum's a bit of a hippie, so I definitely got some of it washed off on me.
Like what would be some of the key things in that spirituality that you would like? I don't know, you said somewhat. Like, is there certain aspects or things that you do that might be a bit spiritual?
I'm open-minded, and there's certain things that you can't explain, and I don't see. Like, if someone says something in a spiritual way, it's like, well, I don't know, so why would I say that that's wrong? It's just I don't know. And I had a friend do a Reiki, like, healing on me, and she had no idea at the time that I was really into podcasting and doing all this, and she did this healing thing. And she went over my body and she just came back and she's like, I just keep seeing a microphone. Like, it's just this microphone that I keep seeing. And this is why at the time when I was thinking about retiring from downhill and getting more into podcasting and creating a studio. Wow. And I was like, I can't explain that. I can't explain that at all. But it was so on point. And she said a few other things that really kind of hit as well. And it's like, who am I to say that that's all bullshit? I was like, I felt that on a deep level. So I definitely think there's things we can't explain. I don't think we should try. You should just experience them and feel them, and that's it. Yeah.
Even like the smaller things like the tarot cards and stuff. Have you had girls read those before?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been caught in a couple of dates where they've been busted out, and you kind of just got to go at it with an open mind. Like it doesn't come naturally, but more and more I'm getting the more you get more spiritual, the more times things happen and you go, what the fuck just happened? So then you kind of like are open-minded to exploring it more, I guess. Because I remember they pulled out these cards, this one girl, and she was like saying things about past things I'm holding on to, and these cards like, and she pulled it out. She's like, you're hanging on to this, and you're stopping yourself from doing this. I'm just like, it's all true, and I'm like, is this like what's going on here? Like, these are just some random cards. So confused. Yeah, I still have this little bit of skepticism, but like definitely more open minded to it, especially speaking with like the Mana Boys and like some of their stories, and you definitely you'd be silly to not have an open mind with it. Feel like some people can definitely go hectically down the path, and that's somewhere where I don't see myself going, but I'm not closed-minded enough to say that I might, you never know, I might go down there. But I think it's just coming at things in open mind. If people have this opinion, they've explored something on a deeper level and they've really unpacked it. So there's merit to it, I guess.
Yeah, just be curious to it.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we wrapped up?
Well, you asked about the friends thing, and I had a few thoughts while you were on that, and I guess it kind of ties into why I built this place we're in right now. And I think living a life of chasing something and perfection and abnormality, in doing that, you separate yourself. And at the top of the mountain, there's never as many people up there to enjoy the view. And I don't think it's any reason to not climb that mountain, whatever that mountain might look like to you, whether that's business, or an athlete, or a goal, or a pain, like whatever that may be. Like, climb the mountain because the view's good, but you also need to know there's a tax you pay in climbing that mountain. And I think isolation is a big part of that. And I had this thing where I'm like, I think a lot of people come to my funeral, not as many people would probably be on my Bucks party. And I thought about that because I've got a lot of connections with people all around the world. I go to most countries and call someone and have a house to stay at. And I think that's amazing. But coming with that, you don't have the time to have really strong rooted connections with people because you're always moving. You're always somewhere new. And I think a part of the reason I retired was the fact that I wanted more connection with people. I wanted to be closer with people. And I think that's something that I struggled with as a kid when we talked about like the suicide stuff, and where I was at, I was very isolated. And it's just knowing yourself, like, okay, I need people, I need connection. And I guess it's been really nice moving up here because on the Gold Coast, like the amount of connections you do make and the people that you do have similar values to and connect with it's amazing how fast like a friendship group can grow and how you can kind of expand not only your body, your mind, everything, because everyone's like pushing you. And they're not even pushing you in a way of like they're trying to push you. They're just living life to the fullest and they're going after what they want. It's like motivating to see your friends do more because you're like, well, I want to do more.
It's a rising tide.
Yeah. And
all the boats are rising too.
Exactly. And it just like it mirrors, like you can look at that two ways, like, oh, he's doing heaps. Why is he doing that? And I guess that's more so small town mentality, and it just keeps you stuck in the mud. When you go, look what he's doing. I want to do more. I want to be on that level or be higher than that. And in doing that, you both get lifted. So I've had like I said, I know I'm loved by a lot of people, and I'm happy with how I show up for a lot of people, but I've just always struggled with that really deeper, closer connection, whether it be in a relationship or with friends, because I've always been so, I guess, manic with my life of like traveling around. And I think it's also self-inflicted as well. Like, as much as I say I want that, I know I'll become a nomad now and again and go live out of my van and be alone and probably solo travel every now and again and put myself in that situation. But I think it's that whole thing of balance of, okay, like, be surrounded by people, make a creative space, make people come in, meet lots of people. And then also the polar opposite is like, I'm going to go get on a plane and go to, I don't know, some random spot by myself for a while and just go MIA. So I think balancing those two is really powerful, and also just having the right friends around you and knowing when you need the right friends. Like, think about in your life, you have certain friends that you know when you're in a point who to go to, and there's some people you shouldn't go to. And it's not like they're a bad person or anything, but it's like, okay, I'm struggling financially. I need to go see Bob. Like, Bob's my man right now. And it's knowing yourself and Bob enough to know, okay, he's going to show up for me. Or my relationship's failing. I need to go see Becca or Chris or whoever it may be. So it's like being self-aware enough to know who you need at what times, and then also showing up for those friends in a similar way. And also knowing as well, if someone's not always showing up in your life, that doesn't mean you cut them off or fuck them off, because we're all living life. I hate when people come at you and go, oh, I haven't heard you from you in a while. It's like, I haven't heard from you either, man. And now I feel guilty for you making me feel that way, and I'm probably not going to show up anymore. So it's like, understand that everyone's living life, everyone's doing stuff. And if someone does reach out or does see you, don't hold it against them, because do you want less or more of them? So I think it's just being accepting that life is busy, and when people do show up in your life, actually just enjoy them from them being there, because you really don't know how long we are all going to be around. Like the other day, I was with a mate, and he was on the phone to his mum, and his mum was like, I didn't think it was that bad, but his mum was saying stuff, and he got annoyed, and they kind of got in a bit of an argument, and he hung up. And I was kind of like, okay, probably wouldn't have dealt with it like that, but whatever, your life. And then I left, and then I called a friend, and I was chatting to his friend, and he's like, oh, I haven't been at work or the office for a while because my mum just passed away. And that was literally probably 5 minutes apart. And I just look at those two interactions and I go, man, imagine what my other mate would think if he just heard the conversation I had with him. And there was something I learned from, I remember a good friend of mine, we got in a fight, and we're out at a bar and we're getting pulled away. And I remember saying to him that he was a piece of shit as I got pulled away from him. And 2 weeks later he died. And I just remember thinking that was like the last thing I ever got to say to this guy. And that was a big lesson. And I remember thinking that, I was like, I'm never gonna leave someone in a negative way like that again. And I remember me and my mum, a year or so after that, we were fighting about a heap of different things, and we'd get in an argument and it would deteriorate, and I'd end up leaving. Before I left, I'd be like, I love you, and give her a hug. Even though that was the last thing I wanted to do. I'm like, I'm not going through that shit again. I'm not leaving on bad terms. And I guess that's how I try and show up with everyone, because again, you don't know when it's over. So if you can show up in a positive way, and again, coming back to smile even when you really don't want to, it's probably going to help you more in the future, knowing that you didn't have any regret into the last words or last interaction you had with someone, because it's like, you never know when it's the last interaction. And that is something that, again, comes back to being really powerful in a good and a bad way. So I think it's being self-aware of that enough to know to be yourself all the time and show up in a proper way.
Yeah, it's so powerful. As you're explaining that story, I remember one of my friends had a similar story where she had a fight with her dad, was on no good terms, and then like they were like best friends, but they had this one fight and it like separated them, and like literally they were on bad terms, and the dad passed away at like 50, like abruptly, didn't wake up one morning. And yeah, I remember when she was explaining that to me, it was just crazy. I wonder if I can find it.
You never get it back, man. That's the thing. It's like I've got to live with what I said forever, but I learnt from it. I'm never going to go down that path again.
For sure. I remember I was into writing poems when she told me that story, and she told me to write a poem for her about it. It was called Missing Someone. I want to quickly find it. Missing. Yeah, here we go. I'll read it to you. It's cool. When was this? This was July last year. It's called Missing That Person. It has been so long. I still can't grasp you not being with me, because you in my arms is where you should belong. The old saying, you don't appreciate something till it's gone, is oh so true. I had no idea this was going to happen. I guess you could say it hit me out of the blue. But I want you to know that I do love you. I think missing someone and loving someone goes hand in hand. And if I'm honest, losing you made me realize that the love I had for you was the opposite of bland. At times, I feel like I don't have a shoulder to lean on. At times, I feel like I didn't have a shoulder to lean on. And in reflection, you were the one that was there for me, to listen in the tough times. With my disbelief in myself, you would disagree and push me to take over the world to some degree. I miss you. Just know that. There are things I wish I did while I had you in my life, but I can't let that get to my head, or it'll just cause me strife. I'm going to use the loss of your beautiful soul to help slingshot me forward. I need to control the voice in my head as it plays with me ever so slightly. I'm going to make you proud, and hopefully one day I'll see you again so I can squeeze you tightly. And I remember I wrote that for her. And I wrote it on the plane on the fly back to Sydney. And then I just quickly, straight after I met with her and then filmed it and posted it and sent it to her, and she just sent me this video back of her crying. And it's just one of those things where you just really don't appreciate the people that actually matter in your life sometimes. And it's a really good reminder to just, like, you're going to have ups and downs. Like, to make a relationship special, there needs to be the different challenges within it. Can't just be sunshine and rainbows. Like, there needs to be some. And just make sure that there's an emphasis on love and appreciation for that person, because you guys are close. You guys love each other. You're going to have disagreements, and understanding that, because imagine being in her shoes or your friend's shoes. Like, it's not a fun place to be in. So trying to reduce that and make that not be a thing is something that, living in a place of oh well, as opposed to what if, and like making sure that you're putting your best foot forward and everything. So you're not saying, I wish I did this thing.
I think forgiving people for yourself is so powerful, man, because I remember when I had a friend and his girlfriend left him and then started seeing someone else that was kind of in the group. And everyone's like, you have every right to be angry. You should be pissed off. That's not fair and all this. I'm like, why are you giving someone permission to be angry? Why are you giving them permission that they can feel shit? And I was like, you have no right to feel shit, man. You have every right to feel good. And the quicker you forgive them, the quicker you feel better. And it's like, I heard this thing where it's like, jealousy's like, what does it say? I think it's like, jealousy's like drinking poison and hoping your enemy dies. And it's the whole thing. It's like, it's going to kill you from the inside. It's like, it's so freeing to forgive people, even people that have done the most atrocious shit to you, or stuff that everyone would go, you have every right to hate that person. I'm like, what good is that? You're carrying that hate with you.
It's a backpack you need to take off.
Yeah, you feel lighter, man. I always compare it. I don't know if you've seen Harry Potter, but you know how he's got the scar and there's like got that gross thing inside of him, that part of Voldemort. Like, that's anger, bro. That lives in you every day. And you can let that go at any time. And doesn't mean like what the person did to you. It's not saying that that was the right thing to do, but it's forgiving them for doing that. And it's like, it's such a freeing feeling to be able to forgive people that have done the worst shit to you and actually mean it and feel it, because it's freeing. It's so freeing. And I think when people justify anger to you, it's not healthy, because it's like, what are you justifying? You're giving them a right to feel a certain way. And I always tell people, like, you don't have any right to be angry, because it's not going to help anything or anyone.
Well, it's focusing on the things that you can control, because when you're focusing on the things that you can't, your mental battery for the day is exerting, and then you're adding this weight on your backpack that you've got to carry around. So focus on things that you can control, not the things that you can't. And like, when you realize that, you kind of just go, fuck, I can't control it. It's happened. It's in the past. So I need to move on and move on to bigger and better things.
It's like when you create something, whether it be art or a podcast or a dance or something, it's like, you can't control how someone receives that. You can just control the effort you put into making it. And if you want to put it out there, then you're obviously like, that should be the win. If you put something out for people to see, that's the win. It's like, you're so proud of that you're going to share it with the world, that is your gift to the world. You can't control if people like or don't like that thing. And we get so caught up now that something's a failure because it doesn't get likes or comments or shares. And our life is so dictated on other people's opinions, preferences, loves, likes. I'm like, you can't control any of that. And you're always going to be dictated by a thing that you can't control. And it's like, imagine if you put something out and you couldn't see likes or comments or tags or anything. You'd still be so happy with that thing you've created because you're sharing it with the world. And I think we get so caught up now that if someone says something, and it's so, like I actually looked at a video that you put up, and I think it was recently you put up, and I just looked at some of the comments, and you've got one person that goes, oh, this is shit, why'd you post this? And then 2 comments down, man, I really needed this today, this has helped my life. And it's like, is it a good or a bad thing? It's like, you could look at both of those and make an opinion, or you could just be happy that you put it out, and that kind of doesn't matter either. And I think it's being okay, and you do a great job of this because obviously you put out so much content, because you know the impact it can have on people. Like, you see someone winning and you're like, I want to do a bit more. And I guess coming and sharing these stories and showing like where you've come from, it's just to be a tool to help other people just go, oh shit, maybe I need to change my life. And that is so powerful, impactful in people's lives. It's just like little things, like you said, like you just did these little videos where you just do a couple seconds a day, but you're just getting after it. And then someone goes, maybe I need to get after it more. And then that'll change their life, and that'll be a snowball effect in a positive direction as well.
It's crazy how you don't realize the impact it makes until you meet people in person. I really believe it, because the number on the screen that just keeps growing is numbing. It wears off. The excitement wears off. Like I'm growing like 1,000 followers a day right now, and like it goes up from 235 to 236K on the it doesn't really have much value, but 1,000 people, we can't fit 1,000 people in this warehouse, right? Well, maybe we could, but like it's like that's a lot of people, right? And so when all it takes is one person to come up, and I was explaining to Mitch, my roommate, a mutual friend of ours, literally this morning, about a story from one of the guys at the Run Club, Carlos. If you're listening to this, man, I appreciate you. He probably is. He listens to the pod. But I remember we were doing I had a run club in Sydney with a couple of my mates. We started growing this thing. There's about 100 people every Wednesday morning coming down to this run club. And after the run club, like you hang around, like we do mobility and then we go for coffee. But down after the mobility, a lot of the time people, like there might be like some fans or something that have come from like an hour and a half away, or they want to get a photo, or anyway, at the end I was getting some photos with some people, and Carlos came up to me and he was waiting for everyone to leave, and he was like shaking, nervous, like really scared to come up to me. And he came up to me, he's like shaking, he's just like, thank you, man, thank you. And he's like, man, like I did. And he was like kind of like really quiet, mumbling his words a little bit, could barely speak. He said he did like one of my self-assessment tools that I have online. And he's like, man, just changed my life. Like it was like proper thing. And he was scared so much, so I just went in and gave him a big hug. And after that, he was like, dude, this is like the scariest thing for me. Coming to this run club, like I didn't come up to you last week. I was too scared. Like, but even coming to this run club scared. I don't put myself out there enough. And from that day, I gave him a bit of a pep talk afterwards. From that day, he kept coming to the run club. Every Wednesday morning, 5 a.m., he came to the run club. Every single week, he started getting a little bit more confident. He started getting better in shape. He started like being a bit more bubbly. He started meeting new people. I kept chatting to him every now and then, and he's like, yeah, man, like, dude, like, I really am I'm just really focusing on me. Like, he like ended up doing one-on-one coaching with me. He was investing into other different stuff and fitness and eating the right foods. And I'm watching someone quite literally in person change his life from some of the stuff that we're doing online. And then the reason I brought it up with Mitch today is because I saw them post, they're still doing the run club every Wednesday, and I saw them post a photo of the run club, the photo of everyone after 100 people there, whatever. Here's Carlos, shirt off, front of the whole group with his arm like this, and he is jacked with a massive smile on his face. And I look at that and go, holy shit, like that is impact.
And that's one person.
That's one person that I've been able to see. But like that to me means more than everything, because now I get reminded like, okay, it actually is making an impact. I pulled up like one of his messages, like when I was leaving, he was really like upset that I was leaving Sydney. And I put up a message and he's just like giving me this praise and stuff. And I just read that and I just like, it's like I can be in my mind, I might be struggling so much. I might be questioning what I'm doing daily. I might be struggling with so many different things, and I might be wearing masks on some days that everything's all good and everyone thinks that I'm living this amazing life and it's so special, yet it's the most challenging thing. And there might be days where that's the case. But at least I've got someone like Carlos that I've seen a day and night difference, transformed life from some little videos online and a little bit of coaching. And that's all I need to keep going. Because when those times get tough, I just go, mate, like there's more people like Carlos that haven't come up to me and their lives are being changed. So I need to keep going. I'm doing not only myself, but everyone else a disservice by not keeping going on that path. And when it comes to hate comments and stuff, you disregard them because, yeah, there's one hate comment in the mix of 10 good ones. And so you got to just focus on the things. But too often we're just focusing on the negative. There's 99 good and 1 bad, and we focus on the bad. We need to really see the good in what's happening in our lives for sure.
I feel for those guys, man. If you need to comment negative shit, I was like, bro, like I feel for you, man. Like you can't be in a good place where that's where you have to vent your anger and put it out to people. Have you heard, we talked about like the whole thing with Carlos. Have you heard the like whole concept of I, we and all?
No.
So most of the time, when I'd say Carlos was probably in this boat, we have it backwards. We go all, we and I. So most of the time we focus on the external world of the crowd of people, those thousands of people liking or commenting or subscribing. And that's where we make our judgment off. And then we come back to we, whether that might be your partner, your relationship or family members. And then the last one we focus on is I. So you think about it, how are you going to make the proper right decisions for yourself when you're starting externally at the world and then coming back to yourself, where it should be I, we and all. So sort yourself out, get your house right, get yourself sorted. And you're okay, I'm okay with me enough now that I can show up in a relationship or friendship or my family. And then once you get that sorted, then show up to the world. But we always try and look at it from the literally the end backwards. And I'd say Carlos would have said, I don't want to come to the run club because he's so focused on everyone that's going to the run club and he's so focused on what they'll think or how they'll perceive him. Or if he looked at himself, he's like, I need to run because I want to get fit because I need this. And you start there. You don't start with what the people think about you going there. You're going to be more likely to show up.
I love that. Like, you've hit the nail on the head there. I think there's this emphasis on the answer for so many things is working on yourself. The emphasis on bettering yourself is you. Like, that's what it is. Like, I do Q&As on my Instagram every now and then. And I did one the other day. And I literally said in one of them, I was like, I'm probably repeating myself because the answer is the exact same for multiple questions. How do you meet the right friends? If you focus on you talk about the garden, people come hang out. If you spend all your time chasing butterflies, they're just going to fly away. But if you spend your time building a beautiful garden, the butterflies will come to you. So if you want to meet the right people, level up you. So then when you get in the room with people, people gravitate towards you. Don't try and put yourself in the right room. Try and focus on you. And by doing so, when you get in those right rooms, which doesn't have to be planned, you just have to live your life, they're going to be drawn to you. And then when you maybe reach out to them or you exchange deets, they're going to want to hang out with you. So focus on you. If you focus on you, what you'll find is everything else starts to stem. When you're talking about that, is it me? Say the
I, we and all.
I, we and all. It's something just slip through the cracks. But I, we and all is I've just forgot what I was going to say.
It's going to come back.
It's going to come back. It's going to come back.
Working on you.
Oh, God. Forgot what I was going to say. It might come back. It's gone.
Because that's the thing. How attractive is it when you're out and you see someone that's they're just happy, man. They're just owning their own shit and they're not chasing after something. They're not looking for something. They're so content and happy with themselves that they don't need more because they've already got everything. And it's like, you want a piece of that. You want a piece of the guy that's so happy and content with themselves and just the whole idea, it gets thrown around a lot like you're glowing, but you see people glow because they are living exactly how they should be. And people come into your life, and I've had it happen before where I question myself, like, why does good shit keep happening, man? Why do good people keep showing up? And I was like, oh, I'm living to my values. I'm showing up how I should show up. And I keep doing these things that are attracting the right people. And at a certain point you go, I'm going to keep doing this because life becomes pretty fucking good when you keep doing this.
Yeah. It literally is like this energy that just draws people to you.
You feel it.
It's a crazy thing. When you go in every interaction, they go, holy shit. Like, it's a feeling. And when you're truly aligned with the things that you want to do in your life and and you're taking steps towards that and you're progressing, and through that progression you have this confidence, like it's an unshakable confidence that people are just drawn to. There's an analogy I use, I'm going to skim over it because all the regular listeners have heard me say this so many times. It's one of those ones where they're like, mate, again, like you saying this again. But it's a table analogy where you're the table and the table has 4 legs. And the whole goal is for you to be full you are the table. You are the whole table. And on top of the table, you have all these plates. You have your relationships, romantic, platonic, your friends, your career, your business, your hobbies, all of this stuff. What happens is a lot of people have something, a person or a thing, that is a leg of that table. Most of the time it's a person, a friend or a romantic partner, and they're a leg of that table. Now, technically, as we've spoken about time and time again we've been speaking for an hour 40 now, is technically that person can leave you at any point in time. So if they're a leg of your table, then technically at any point in time you can be broken. And not only do you get broken when that leg breaks off, but the table breaks, so everything on top comes crumbling down as well. So the whole goal in life, if we can just be full within ourselves and be full and everything else is a bonus, you give off this energy that you don't need anything, and people are drawn to that because you're so content, you're so confident, you're so sure on the path that you're on, and that's an energy that people gravitate towards.
A certain level of stability that comes along with it. It's funny though, I feel people want stability along with, obviously, it's kind of fun when the table gets a bit wobbly because that's when you learn how to balance it.
Yeah, but if the goal is learning how to balance it, it's more about the table's not going to be sturdy straight away. That comes through growth. But the whole goal in life is to get it to sturdy. So then when you're sitting back,
you shouldn't count on anyone but yourself.
Yeah.
And I think we count, like you said, the pillars or the people that hold up your life. Again, it's out of your control. So it's like, why are you putting control of your life in other people's hands? Like I used to always, growing up in a small town, I'd always get people to come and try and do stuff with me. I was like, let's go for a road trip up the coast. Let's do this, or let's go and like explore and do more. And my friend's like, nah, I don't want to do that. And I was letting other people determine how I live my life. And it was a really big awakening when I realized that if you want to do something, go do it. And if people don't want to come with you, that's fine. Don't hold it against them. Just let them go and do what you need to do. And along the journey of doing that, you will meet people doing the same thing. And those are your people because they're doing what aligns with their values and your values. And then you're like, oh my God, you get me. You're doing the same thing I'm doing. And then you just meet more people like that. And I think obviously this place here is a bit of a hive for creatives and people in that world. And I think, the more people you can surround yourself like that, the better. It's just like you could hear something from someone or learn something from someone that might, again, change your life completely. And I think that's why we're probably both so drawn to doing podcasting and interviewing people, because it's like not only are you learning and connecting with someone, you can help hundreds of thousands of people in some way by giving them the knowledge to help them level up in their life. And like if we all level up, we all become better people. That's just like a net positive for the fucking world, really.
Do you ever find these people in your life that you just are drawn to and gravitate towards, but then it's fleeting and you lose friends?
Yeah, but I think it's the fleeting makes it almost, it changes how it is, but almost in a good way. Like I know when I was traveling in my van or traveling racing on like World Cups and stuff, it's all fleeting. And I guess it's like when it's so fleeting that it's like, all right, we need to get every little bit of juice out of this friendship.
When you don't know it's fleeting though. Like you meet these people, same town, same everything, and you just click. And then all of a sudden you went from not even knowing these people to just spending like 16 hours a day with these people. And then some divide happens off the back of that. Have you ever had anything like that happen?
Somewhat. I think it's like you don't want to think about it all the time because I don't think it's probably healthy for your brain, but at the same time, have it back there somewhere to know, again, like we don't know what happens. We don't know where we're going to be or what we're going to do. And it's probably a good way to be if you're in a situation that sucks and you go, if it all was to end tomorrow, is this where I want to be? And I think that should be motivating to get you out of there. But I think it's just knowing that like life is fleeting. Like realistically, like I don't know about you, but I look back at how long a year used to feel when I was a kid, and it feels quicker now. And everyone says they get quicker. And I'm sure eventually looking back when you're older, you go, fuck, man, life went pretty quick. So I guess it's just, knowing yourself enough to go after the things you want to go. Because I think, you hear it all the time about people having regret in their life. And I think when you look at something you really want to do, even if it turns out being terrible in the end, you know now. It's like, I went after that thing I really wanted to do and it didn't work out, but at least I know. And I'd rather not die knowing, or not knowing, sorry. So it's like, go after it. And like you said, worst case scenario, you probably learn a big lesson and you've also tried to do the thing. So there's not really any failure in that. You've tried it, didn't work, next thing. I think life's just all about ticking off boxes, like having a goal, going after it. If it works, amazing, feel it. If it doesn't work, go back to the drawing board and start again.
No expectation.
No.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Can't agree more. I think that's probably, what do you reckon we call it?
You got it done?
Hour 50. It's good. Flowed.
What's your favourite quote?
Honestly, that Steve Jobs one literally is up there, like connecting the dots looking backwards. I think it's such a powerful reminder because you kind of like you kind of are in decision making. I don't know the amount of decisions we make every single day, but I think we're always caught in decision making processes, and we don't know what to do. We're a bit torn. Just a great reminder just to go, okay, like, what feels right? Like, fucking do that and disregard all the rest of them. It's like, it's going to shape you to the person that you're going to become. For good or for bad, it's going to shape you into the person you're going to become. It's always good because you can see good in all of it. So I do think, like, honestly, I always go back to that quote. But yeah, I mean, look, I've spoken about plenty of quotes in my time. It's funny when I I blew up off quotes. So yeah. I've got plenty of quotes, but I honestly, I'm going to say that one and just leave it at that. But what about you?
I like the don't sweat the small stuff, and that one hits. But I read one recently, I liked it as well. It said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Now, who do you reckon said that?
Some genius.
Albert Einstein.
Albert Einstein, yeah, I was going to say.
And it's just funny coming from him that he still thinks imagination is more powerful than knowledge, and he obviously did all the things that he did. I
think what's interesting with quotes for me is I'm also say quotes that are more relevant in my life. I find quotes and I resonate with them, and those ones are more powerful for me. Like one that I just love right now is like, when you're on your way up, they root for you because you remind them of their dreams. But then when you make it and you're on the top, they try to tear you down because you remind them that they didn't try. For everyone that needs a friendly reminder, no one is going to hate on you for doing something worse than them. Like that just hits so hard because like they just want to tear you down, honestly. Like, and then when you gained all this traction, they just fucking, all these people reach out. When you talk about like you said before, and I didn't raise it, just about like people that, you know, are reaching out, and don't be mad at them for reaching out because they haven't spoken to you. It's like, when I needed you and when I thought we were close, you weren't there. Like, I don't need your support right now. You're not reaching out to me because of me. You're reaching out to me because of what I can do for you. And I've just been burnt too many times. And like, I literally had a screensaver on my phone. It says say no, because I just need to focus on the things that matter and the people that matter right now, because the people that have been there for me through thick and thin, through times where, like, when my head hit the pillow at night, I could not sleep. And like, there was people that were there supporting me, which isn't many, can't feel a hand, but like, those are the ones that really matter because they've got perspective on my life. They actually know some of the shit that I've been through.
I know, I agree with that. And I guess it comes back to the intention behind why they're reaching out.
Yeah.
I mean that more in a fact of, I know that I can't always show up in people's lives for them, but that doesn't mean that I don't care about them. It's just sometimes distance.
If they reached out and say, "Hey, man, I know we haven't spoken much, but like I love what you're doing. You're really inspiring, and I miss you. We should hang out more."
Yeah.
It's like, that's cool.
Yeah.
But if they go, "Hey, man, I know we don't speak much, but I know we don't speak much, but I just want to let you know that like I miss you, I love you, and we should hang out more." And then I say, "Oh, thanks, man." And then they respond and go, "Hey, by the way, I saw you with this person. Can you give me an intro?" Or, "Hey, I saw you just moved into this really nice house. I was wondering like, should we do this?" And I'm just like, okay. So like
expectation.
It's like, okay, you were nice, but then what you actually wanted is in the second message, and that's not nice. Because like, I don't need you now. You want something from me.
It's not being genuine.
Yeah. So like,
I see both sides, for sure.
For sure.
I wanted to say I've made a bit of a list on my phone. I just thought about quotes because we've really been.
You're gonna read some quotes to me.
I just got like some of the ones I really like. I thought about this
bit of a quote special at the end, guys.
Yeah, if anyone's still here.
For anyone's still here. Thanks for everyone tuning in. Appreciate you all.
I like this. I thought about this the other day. I was like, fear is normally just opportunity wrapped in a challenging situation.
Fear is normally just opportunity wrapped in a challenging situation.
Yeah, jump in.
Jump in.
Yeah. But how often do we get frozen by fear when, and again, fear can be seen in so many different ways. I'm not saying go jump off a bridge because there's an opportunity to jump off a bridge. But fear is normally something that it seems really scary and then you go into it and you go, oh, that was actually so easy. And for example, like you see people get like a shot, like a needle, and they're terrified of needles. And then they're like so worried and they're holding all this fear in their body and then like, oh, it's over. Yeah. But you could look at that in moving town, meeting up with someone, like so many other things. It's just like knowing that in that fear, and it's like, it's good to be scared. It's good to be anxious. It's good to be scared because it means you're emotionally and physically and everything, you're attached to that thing. And I think I had fear when I got this place. I never made a creative studio before. I've never made a podcast room before. And there's another quote where it says, bite off more than you can chew and chew like fuck. And I think it's like going into that fear head first, be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Build the plane on the way down.
Exactly. And I think knowing as well when you're going through that and like the fear, and then you're also going to feel fear and you're going to feel like it's going to be hard. And that's okay. And I don't think you can build anything special without going through a point of being hard. Like even the room we're sitting in right now, man, I remember being in here by myself at like 10:30 at night, gluing foam to the walls. And in those points, man, especially after like coming off the injury as well, like I still had nerve damage. Like I was like not in the best place. And I'm like, why am I trying to build this place when I'm like, my body's not even built back up to how it should be? And I had moments of doubt. I had moments of fear of what was going to turn into, and it just felt hard. And in those moments, you have to go, okay, I'm so glad I went through that because now I can sit in and enjoy it. But it's like the fear that was attached, the hardship that was attached, and the struggle that was attached is so much better now that I can sit here in it and go, oh, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to feel those emotions if I hadn't gone through that. If I just rocked up here and just got someone else to build it, it'd be like, oh, cool. But you're not gonna have that equal positive that comes with that hardship.
Yeah, that's good. Great quotes. That ties perfectly into this one I pulled up that I just love. I love this. You have to be crazy enough to think that it's possible. That's how you do something worthwhile. That's how you beat the odds. You have to believe it's possible. Like, you have to be crazy enough to think that it's even possible. Because fuck, it's not likely. Like, you've got to be psycho to think that it's possible. And like, that belief is where the magic happens. Like, that's how you beat the odds. Because no one else is going to do it. Like you've got, no one's willing enough to be psycho enough to have that belief. So if you have it, fucking hang on to it and get after it.
Do you know who Sir Edmund Hillary is? So he was the first guy to climb Mount Everest, and they asked him before he did it, that he was in like an interview, and they asked him, why do you want to climb it? And he just said, because it's there. And it was just such a powerful thing. And I just think about it, it's like, because it's there, because you can see it. And like everyone's obviously seen it, but it's like I think there's so much power in just going after something because it's there.
It's there.
And I just remember it hit me, and I was like, with anything you go after, like I visualize a lot of things, and I think if you can see it in your mind, that's your mountain that you've got to climb, and no one else has to see it, but you see it. And when you see it and you can just go after it, it's like you have your North Star that you can go towards. And I think that's so powerful when he said that, because it's just like, why do we do anything? Why do we go after anything? Because it's
That's so powerful. I think we wrap it up there. I've got a dinner to go to. Let's go. It's been 2 hours.
Sick.
Thanks for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it. I think like there's so much value in that, and also just having a nice, authentic, raw chat for a couple of hours. It flowed like butter. It's been so good. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you're still listening to this, you've got to be sick of our voices by now. I really appreciate you all. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Pocket. If you are new here, or if you have enjoyed this show, and if you've made it this far, like, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple. It would mean the world. The more reviews and the more followers that we get on this show, it helps the show grow, helps us keep getting amazing guests on, so we can keep putting some awesome conversations together for you guys to listen to weekly. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
You.
See ya.
See ya.